This is the fifth video in a series related to the Liberty Hill 2040 Comprehensive Plan. If you haven't already seen all of the videos in this series, please check the description below to find links. This video will discuss land use planning and place types, which are a tool that will be used in Liberty Hill to help guide future growth and development. Any planning which aims to accommodate for the way we want Liberty Hill to grow and change over time is future land use planning. For as long as we've had cities, we've been trying to plan for future growth. In the modern American system of planning, we settled into using a tool called future land use categories and have been using that for more than 60 years. In that name, the operative word is use, meaning that the categories are based around what specific uses were expected to go in distinct places. Uses were segregated, and the operating assumption was that each use needed its own place fully detached from any other kind of use. So we had categories exclusively for residences, or exclusively for commercial or industrial uses. Historically, these categories have been subdivided into higher and lower density groupings. It's important to separate this tool from zoning, which provides specific rules for how development occurs on a given parcel of land. These future land use categories were simply supposed to suggest the type of use that would go in a given place. But more modern planning recognizes that most places are better where there is an appropriate mix of these uses, and instead focuses on just creating great places with unique character. Places that people want to be. Place types are a tool to help do this. In Liberty Hill, we have identified 6 appropriate place types. They are rural, traditional neighborhood, town center, new urban village, auto corridor, and high intensity. At the next series of engagement events in April 2023, we'll ask for your input on where these place types belong in and around Liberty Hill. This video aims to give you a short primer on what each of these place types should feel like. Place types themselves describe the character and interaction between the humans who inhabit a place and the built environment. Place types do a lot more than suggest a use. They identify appropriate streets, public spaces, building typologies, and the interface between the public and private realms. So let's chat about each of these place types. The first, rural, is generally characterized by large lots with single-family homes in a rural setting away from the city center, as well as public services. This type of development leaves ample amount of surrounding open space and generally involves minimal infrastructure investment by the city. Traditional neighborhoods have a grid of streets and a mix of housing types. The best traditional neighborhoods also include a mix of appropriately scaled retail and services. In more recent suburban development, there's often been less mixing of uses. The place type town center serves to identify and categorize the unique character of the core of Liberty Hill. This place type ensures that the existing character of downtown is preserved and improved, helping to foster a central place where the community can gather and interact. A new urban village is intended to be a bustling center of activity, with active streets and a focus on people. Filled with high-value development, it can be one of the most fiscally resilient place types. These are generally developed from greenfield land. Identified by the principal focus on auto-oriented traffic, auto corridor will generally hug Liberty Hill's major east-west corridor, US Highway 29. Typical uses will include regional businesses, including but not limited to restaurants, retail, gas stations, and offices. This place type is designed to accommodate the highest intensity form of industrial or commercial development. High intensity is generally located along roadways that have adequate capacity to serve the larger industrial vehicles. So, each place type will designate which building typologies are appropriate inside them. There are 3 broad groupings: residential typologies, mixed-use typologies, which means buildings that allow for more than one type of use inside them, and non-residential typologies. We will give a quick overview of each of these. Single-family detached is a residential typology that makes up the majority of homes in Liberty Hill. These are simply houses in which each family unit is in a separate building. These can be situated in a neighborhood setting, as seen here, or on larger lots in a rural context. Smallplex encompasses multi-unit residences from duplex up to about 8 units. These are housing types that are often considered missing as they make up a disproportionately small amount of the total housing stock in most American cities. Townhomes, while generally attached, can also mean detached homes which sit on very narrow lots. Often these buildings are taller than they are wide. Accessory dwelling units, often just called ADUs, mother-in-law suites, or granny flats, are a self-contained housing unit most often detached from the main house, though they can be attached in some cases. Historically, these were built out of detached garages or purpose-built behind the main face of the primary home. Apartments were historically between 12 and about 34 units, but in more modern suburban contexts are often massive complexes which have hundreds of units. It's very important to differentiate these subgroups of apartments because the former can fit into the fabric of a neighborhood, while the latter is only appropriate in heavily auto-oriented places. Live-work units are the lowest intensity mixed-use typology, and these are generally a single residence over or behind a single business space. For people who want either attached office space or a small retail to support their home-based business, this typology is critical to have in a community. Few over is the next increment of intensity above live-work mixed-use buildings. These are generally characterized by a small number, often between 4 and 8 units, of housing above one or more different uses. Many over is the highest intensity mixed-use building typology. These are often tens of units of residential above many retail or commercial spaces. Though it's also important to note that sometimes the mix of uses are office spaces above retail or other commercial. Like mixed-use typologies, non-residential typologies are broadly separated by intensity. The lowest intensity, neighborhood scale, are non-residential buildings that are small enough to fit in near and around neighborhoods. These are sometimes 1 to 3-story buildings brought close to the street, but can also be residential conversions, as we already see in Liberty Hill's core. Regional scale non-residential are the kinds of magnet development that draw users from around and outside Liberty Hill. As a result, parking considerations are important. These are where you'll find things like retail centers and grocery stores. The highest non-residential typology is industrial. These are buildings which are generally simply designed and consume a lot of land when built. Placement of these typologies must be thoughtfully considered. So what's next? At the next series of engagement events in April 2023, we will ask for your input on where the place types belong in and around Liberty Hill. Thanks so much for watching. To stay updated about the comprehensive planning process, please visit lhtx2040.com.